I did a bad thing. I know myself, and I know watching the movie Amityville Horror, which is based on a true story, by the way, is never something that a person like me should do. Ever. A few days later, I was with two of my best friends, and everything was fine, nothing out of the ordinary. It was summertime, and it was the middle of the day, humid and shining broad daylight. I was with one of them grabbing drinks from my finished basement, carpet, furniture, a kitchenette, really nothing scary, a perfectly furnished room. We didn't bother turning on the lights because we'd only be down there for a second, and the sun beamed in through a few small windows. But all Kelsey had to do was whisper the movie's most terrifying line in an eerie and breathy hiss of a voice to have me screaming and clawing my way up the stairs like I was being chased by an axe murderer. I can tell you that I don't think I've ever booked it so desperately in my entire life. My soda flying into the air, I lunged, not running, but diving, headfirst into the stairs, scrambling up as if I was being hunted. And of course, I wasn't. Kelsey was still standing by the fridge, uproarious in laughter, not a bit concerned about her dear friend's impending doom. Meanwhile, I want you to picture this. I am on all fours, panting, and have lost both of my flip-flops in the midst of my escape. I eagerly throw my body over the top step, only to be greeted by my other friend, who was puzzled but hugely entertained. It's safe to say that I can't watch horror movies, not even when people try to make them sound milder by calling them psychological thrillers. For me, it will only have bone-chilling long-term consequences. So nothing too scary, and I really don't bode well with the dark. Even mediocre darkness. Like sometimes people tell stories about when they were in a cave and they experienced the darkest dark they've ever felt. No, I'm just talking about your everyday average darkness. Like maybe you're getting back to your room late at night, and even though you've just cleaned and you know where everything is, you just want that added security of a light so you know that there's no surprises. During a game of Dexter House Sardines, we had the lights out through the entire house, and I had a death grip on my roommate's arm pretty much the whole time. I mean, it's a big old house with lots of creaking noises, and you're looking for the one person who's hiding. You never know if you're going to reach into a closet and feel something breathing. It's just not a pleasant feeling. But all of this aside, the fact that I'm a little girl who is afraid of the dark isn't just true in the literal sense. I, like most of you, I'm sure, hate those times of figurative darkness in life. And with this, I don't just mean spiritually. Like we were discussing during Mental Health Week, you could be totally on track in your walk with God and feel close to Him and experience His love daily, but emotionally you just know that something isn't right. It could be just for a couple hours or a few days or something more like a state of depression that spans over weeks or months. I'm struggling through one of those periods of darkness right now. There's a situation in my life that I don't have much control over, and it's affecting my emotions deeply. For the first few days, I lived in anxiety and somewhat of a depression. I felt mopey, quiet, and occasionally was overcome by a sense of helplessness and loneliness where I'd panic and be short of breath. A few days later, I felt considerably better, making jokes and chumming around with my friends again. But then something would remind me of my present circumstance, and I'd once again slip right back into that funk where all I'd want to do is just lie there and look at the ceiling. Don't worry, I'm not here to preach about the light at the end of the tunnel or finding joy in the darkness, because if someone told me that right now, I'd probably just roll my eyes and shrug them off. They'll tell me that this too will pass, or you'll bounce back soon. Bounce back? How on earth can you tell me that I'll bounce back when you have no idea the pain that I'm feeling? I would want to say, thanks for trying to place yourself in my shoes, but you're doing a pretty awful job. Please don't give me a timeline as to how long I'm allowed to be upset. Let me just sulk and act like a pathetic mess for a little while. I know that Jesus is loving me through, and as a matter of fact, I'm feeling that love in very tangible ways right now. I'm realizing more than ever that I have the world's best friends. I want to call them all out by name right now so that you can network with them when you're feeling down, because they are so fantastic. But even with all of this, I'm still feeling miserable from time to time, and I need for that to be okay. So that's where I'm at. I'm hurting. It's dark, and as you know, I'm afraid of the dark. It's not a darkness where something petrifying may or may not be chasing me, but it's a darkness where I feel like I have nowhere to run, even if I wanted to. I'm so grateful to have had my good friend and housemate Erica Diaz read Psalm 27. I wasn't planning on using a text mentioning light and darkness this morning, but God pretty much forced me to. I know that God wanted me to share Psalm 27, and he made it abundantly clear. Last month, I would rewrite verse 14 on my hand every day for about a week. Wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart, and wait for the Lord. The repetition really hit me hard. Cass, chill out. Just wait. Then I plopped myself down into my usual pew for chapel last Monday, and a very dear friend said, Cass, I have a verse for you, as she opened to Psalm 27 and read verses 13 and 14. I had been so consumed with verse 14 that I had pretty much missed verse 13 altogether. It says, I am still confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. We are reminded of the goodness of the Lord before we are told to wait and before we are told to be strong. The psalmist was confident in this goodness. Then later that same evening, Erica was checking in on me to see how I was holding up. And after I explained my current state to her, she said, I've been reading in Psalm 27 lately, as she reached to grab my Bible. I threw up my hands. I said, are you kidding me? Are you serious? This chapter just wouldn't go away. It was hunting me down. So she read verses 3 and 4 to me, more verses about having confidence and eagerly seeking the beauty of God. And it was then that my roommate chimed in and said, oh, is that the psalm that starts with the Lord is my light and my salvation? Whom shall I fear? I just wrote that whole psalm out yesterday. It's great. Okay, God, I get it. You have something really big that you want me to grasp here, and since I'm a little slow, you're trying to make it super obvious so that there's no conceivable way that I could miss it. Mission accomplished. After having recently read it on my own, God provided 3 friends to speak the truth into my life all in one day. So, what does God actually want me to take away from this chapter that I have just been barraged with? I've always loved when people say that God meets you right where you are, because especially in times like these, I don't feel like picking myself up by my bootstraps or seeing the world as a glass half full. So, if I'm still, for the time being, choosing to be moody, how can I let these verses speak to me? I've mentioned that I'm afraid of the literal and figurative darkness, but I suppose what I'm more afraid of is the unknown. I'm the type of person who needs to have all my ducks in a row. Like Hunter said, I am that control person. I'm a planner, and I don't thoroughly enjoy surprises. I guess that's what makes darkness so scary for me, is the element of the unknown. I hate not knowing how to solve a problem, and I hate not knowing how a situation is going to end up. I think that I have given God the control over my life, but when he does something unexpected, I feel fully entitled to an explanation with a detailed and reassuring plan as to how things will unfold. A good friend who I greatly appreciate told me the hard truth about a week ago. He said, you know I love you, but you get really bent out of shape when you can't tie your pretty little bow on something and call it a day. This isn't going to be easy, the pain isn't going to be over soon, and you're going to hate it. Ouch. He compared it to another situation in my past, and he said that things were easier then because I was able to find a resolution and move on. But then he said something that struck me to the core. He said, closure may have been healthy and helpful to you then, but it certainly doesn't take that much faith. What you have to do now is live in that in-between. You're going to struggle with that immensely, and that will take faith. Wow. I need to live in this horrible, dark, in-between stage where I have no idea what's going to happen, but I need to be okay with that? How is that even done? I hope you're not expecting an answer to that question, because I honestly have no idea. I'm still working on it, so if I figure it out, I'll let you know. But for right now, I'm still clinging to verses 13 and 14 because I feel like I really have no other choice. I am still confident of the goodness of God, and I see him here all around me. I see him in the encouraging words of my loving friends, and in the beautiful colors of autumn, and in those outrageous snowflakes that feel the need to fall in the month of October, I see his beauty, and I do have hope, and I have confidence in him. But for now, I guess all I can do is wait. Verse 14 tells me to wait twice, and I'll tell you, I am trying to be as patient as I can. And this verse tells me to be strong, and I'm trying so hard to find ways to do that every day. But it also tells me to take heart. And that's not an incredibly common phrase, but I think that it's a cute, poetic, kind of Shakespearean kind of way of saying have courage. I read this as God saying, Cassie, just dig as deep as you can inside of yourself to whatever small grain of courage you can muster up. Have a little faith, and I'll meet you there. Just try. So I will. I'll wake up and I'll submit the day to him, acknowledging my lousy attitude and asking him to meet me here and show me something to cling to. What stinks is that it may not be something tangible to cling to like I'm hoping for. But what I think God tried to show me last week was that if you're feeling like me at all right now, I highly encourage you to meditate thoroughly on Psalm 27, because there are words of sorrow and there are also words of hope. It starts off by saying, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" While this is true, I still hate the darkness, and I'm afraid of what it represents. It's really not that easy for me. But the rest of the chapter gives small words of encouragement for the desperate and the brokenhearted. Thanks for letting me share some of my struggles with you this morning, and I'll leave you with these short words from Psalm 27. Ask, seek, dwell, gaze, be confident, wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart, and wait for the Lord. Thank you.